This is the number one thing you're doing wrong in your marketing as a real estate investor. I talk to real estate investors all over the country every single day. I've been doing this for 15 years, and the same thing pops up every single time. And it lands on one major thing: you're doing things backwards. See, most people start spending marketing dollars just looking for sellers, trying to find deals, right? Instead of starting with, who are my buyers and what can I sell them? If you know exactly what your buyers are buying, then you don't have to go out there and spend marketing dollars trying to guess at what you're seeking. You don't have to go blanket neighborhoods and hope that you're going to get a result. You get in a very tight segment and know, for this buyer, I need to find this property. What's even bigger about it, and I see this a lot with some newer investors, is you're guessing at the values. You go to a buyer and you say, hey, I have this deal, I'd like to sell this property to you, and you throw a number at them without understanding at all what they're actually trying to pay, whether that value even fits for their model and what they're trying to do, whether they're flipping, whether they're buy and hold, it doesn't matter. So start with the buyer first, and what you're gonna find is you control the market, because now you can do deals in all sorts of different ways. Buyer first allows you to target certain things instead of having to just blanket everything and hope for a deal. So reverse engineer, right? Find your buyers, piece those together, which you can do the same way you do as the seller marketing. Same thing with the texting, direct mail, cold calling. It's the same thing. You're just pulling a different type of list. You're pulling the buyers who have bought recently. Really simple to do. There's a lot of powerful data out there that lets you do this, really targeted, or just kind of say, give me everybody that didn't buy off the MLS in the last X amount of months. A lot of different ways to do it, but by doing this, you can focus your marketing efforts on really filling orders instead of just hoping that a deal is going to come across that's going to work, or tying up 10 contracts, not being able to move any of them, and now you've been reaching out to buyers for months, just burning them up when you're presenting them deals that they don't even care to look at because they're so far off value. So start with the buyer first, and then all the rest of the stuff, when we talk about marketing and what works and what doesn't and reading KPIs, all that stuff gets a lot easier when you kind of start at the end and work backwards. One of the major misses across marketing, scripts, if you're using scripts, VAs, how you're talking to buyers, how you're talking to sellers, even reading your KPIs, right? So how are your salespeople performing? Either dispo or acquisitions, doesn't really matter. All of it seems to be missing more and more the human aspect of everything, right? So you're scripting this thing out, handing it to a VA who's in the Philippines, or maybe you have a US-based VA, it doesn't matter. They're following a script and they're just rattling this stuff off on a phone call to a list, or maybe somebody that raised their hand, right? The problem is there's no human element to the connection, right? There's no, who is this person I'm talking to? Let me figure out their situation and then figure out if I can help them or not. You're just deal hunting instead of trying to build relationships and find sellers. It's a major miss that not only affects your KPIs and how you see things, and I'll explain it here in a second a little bit deeper, but it's causing you to market in a way that actually hurts your business. You're trying to be a value add to these sellers. That's the way you have to do it. You're sitting in the middle of the seller and the buyer, and you're value adding, right? You're helping them get out of a situation that they don't know how to handle. Maybe it's simple, maybe it's complicated, maybe they just don't have the time. It doesn't matter. You're helping them in some way. That's where you create the most value. And honestly, that's where you create your profitability, because the more of that you can do, the more of a resource you are to the market, the more they're going to want to work with you, right? And it becomes less about price now, what they're selling it for, and more about convenience and relationship. So think about that in all of your marketing processes, but take it a step further, right? And think about, you all of a sudden one week get a lot of wrong numbers. Your VAs or whoever it is, your acquisitions team are saying, all these people are picking up the phone, they're saying wrong number. Or maybe you just look at your KPIs and the wrong number is high. And you automatically go to, well, it must be bad data, or it must be this. Point the finger across all the different things instead of just like, okay, well, let me just go listen to those conversations, right? So what does the intro sound like? And think about it from your perspective. If you get a random call from a number you haven't seen before, likely that's showing spam risk on the caller ID, right? Or telemarketer, all this new stuff they're doing. You get that call. You don't know who it is. You hear a foreign voice, maybe even a US voice. And instead of them just saying, hey, John, how's it going? They rattle off a 15-second intro. What are you going to do? Nope, wrong number, hang up, right? And what you have to understand is it's changed. It used to be, take me off the list, right? All they're doing is interchanging a different phrase to say, take me off the list. So consumers are figuring out what they have to say so that you stop calling them, right? Stop playing it that way, right? Why are they saying wrong number? It doesn't mean they're not a viable lead. It's your intro is broken in most cases. 99% of the time, that's what happens. That's one example of how you've taken the human element out of it, and it causes all these other things to go wrong. It causes your marketing really not to work properly, and then your KPIs not to make sense to you anymore. And you start trying to figure out and scramble what you have to change because you're just looking at one thing instead of taking that element into it. Step even further for you on your salespeople, right? And this is where marketing gets really tricky, and you have to be careful about KPIs and how you read them and what they actually are telling you. And again, by remembering the human piece of it, you'll stay in line with these KPIs. Let's say you have a salesperson that they come in one week and their numbers are just off. You know, they're a closer every single week, and this week they just can't close at all. Well, how many people are actually sitting down and talking to Becky about what's going on in her life and figuring out that like something happened at home? So she may be doing the same number of calls. You're like, wow, the same number of calls are going out, but the performance is less. Those must be bad leads. Well, what if the conversations are just bad? What if somebody's having a bad week and they're on the phone and their tone is different, their energy is different? Like, all these things affect how all of this marketing performs. And by not remembering that and then eliminating the stuff you can control, this is all stuff you can't control. You just have to know it's there and know how to react to it when it comes up, and not just blanket start changing stuff, right? That's a little tweak. I just have to have a conversation with Becky that changes how everything performs that week. I don't have to go change my marketing process. I don't have to go change my list provider. You know, there's all these things that you can change in the process, but you have to understand what's really going on. The human element is, I mean, I see it so much more now that it's just missing from everybody's process. Everybody's just trying to get to the deal as quickly as possible. That's not what you're marketing for. You're not marketing for deals. You're trying to find situations and sellers that you can help. If they already know they want to sell and they're already, yep, I'm ready to sell, they likely have just listed it. Especially if you're in a hot market. That's where you have to get even more nimble and figure this stuff out and get ahead of deals. What you're trying to do is market and get a conversation started today for the deal that's going to pop up 6 months from now, right? Or the person that they have no idea that they need to sell today, but you're able to look into their situation and get them there, you know, a lot quicker. So focus on the human piece of how you piece all this together. Remember that it's there. You don't have to change everything for one human. I'm not saying that, but you have to remember that, like, you're talking to people. This isn't about deals. This is about situations, sellers, buyers. What do they need? What are they looking for? How can I provide value to them by solving a problem or fulfilling a need that they have?